We like to call it the Supernatural Hour. And now, our hosts.
Hey, welcome to the Supernatural Hour. I am one of your hosts, Raven.
I'm Rogue.
This is Doc.
And Chad's here. Really appreciate our patrons. In fact, we got 2 more this week. We're really excited to have a couple of new patrons. We'll get a shout out to them when they give us the names they want to be known as.
But you guys know who you are.
Yeah, and we're really excited to have you.
Today's topic is James Dean's cursed car.
A cursed car.
Cursed car.
James Dean, 1955.
Yep. And I've heard about this, and I'd heard little snippets about it and always found it interesting, but as I got researching it, it's sad. But as far as the curse and the car, it's way cooler than I remember. All right, so
I think we should start off with, who is James Dean?
Oh, you beat me to it.
okay.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Do you know? Doc?
Yes. He was an actor and a racer.
Wasn't he Rebel Without a Cause?
I believe so.
That
I know
was
who he is. I don't know that I've ever seen anything he's been in.
Giant.
No.
Rebel Without a Cause. What's the third one? I
No.
forget.
I don't know. I'll have to look that one up.
And 2 of them came out after his death. Production had been finished, filming had been finished, but he hadn't done it. So he was just becoming a star, and actually, I believe he won Emmys after he had passed from the car wreck. In fact, he bought the car from the money from his first movie, from the proceeds of his first movie.
Now, if I remember right, wasn't he going to buy a different car, and for some reason he couldn't, so he bought that one instead?
Yeah, it wouldn't come in, so he got that one instead.
And it had a name.
Little Bastard.
Yep.
Little Bastard.
What a name, right?
And it wasn't just the name of his car. Do you know how he got that name? That was what they called him on the set.
Ah.
Because he was the little bastard that wouldn't come out and wouldn't do the things. And he had that stenciled onto his brand new Porsche.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was a Porsche 550 Spider. And it was silver. It had some red racing stripes. Now, if I remember right, the racing stripes were common, but the silver color was not. There was something about the color that was... part of it was standard, part of it was not.
Yeah, the red racing stripes were pretty standard. I think the silver color wasn't as standard. And then he had the number 130 put on it as his racing number. He was an amateur racer.
If I remember right, he never actually won any races, but he liked to
yeah, he was an amateur
race.
racer, and he raced, and he had other cars. This was like his 4th or 5th car. He had other cars, and he had, I think it was a Lamborghini coming that wasn't going to be there in time, and so he bought this car as an interim car, to use it. And it wasn't just a race car, it was a car that you drove on the streets, but then you could race. There's a lot of road rally racers that kind of do the same thing. They'll have their street racer cars that then they'll go out and race amateur with. And Rogue might know a little more about amateur car racing.
Not street racing. I'm a former drag racer. 2 different things.
I was about to say.
Thank you.
Is he an amateur racer like I'm an amateur chef?
I drive faster than
He's
the
probably
speed
more
limit
of a racer than
sometimes.
I am a chef. Let's start there.
I drive faster than the speed limit sometimes. Does that count?
You're an amateur
Sometimes.
racer.
But I have to say, I watch you sometimes when we're on Marco Polo, and if there's an officer around you and you're on Marco Polo, you are the best driver ever. There's an officer over there. I don't want him to see me on my phone.
I don't want to get pulled over and get
He's
a
not
ticket.
going to see you on your phone. Every time
He
I'm always
will.
sitting there going, he's not going to see
He
you
will.
on your phone.
If anyone's going to get pulled over for being on their phone, it's going to be me.
Well, yeah, when you're taking up 2 lanes.
I don't
Because you're on Marco Polo, right?
Floating back and forth.
Yeah,
No, when I'm on Marco Polo, you're just like staring up my nose because I've got the phone sitting in my lap. Now, James Dean, because he was starting to gain in popularity and kind of turning into a little bit of a teenage heartthrob, they actually had him do some public service, don't speed, little snippets for the California Highway Patrol?
Uh-huh.
I didn't know that. Had they been airing?
I think so.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Wow. Do as I say, not as I do.
Yes.
Oh,
Pretty typical.
wow.
That's like Chris Farley doing like an anti-drug campaign.
Right.
So,
Come on,
Right.
guys. Say no to drugs.
so the
Oh.
interesting thing that I find about this is, even though he did these public service things, he had a lead foot, and everywhere he drove fast. And not within a week of this accident that he had that was caused by speeding, he had 2 friends tell him, be really careful when you drive in this area because it's a speed trap. They've got a lot of cops there. Be careful. Twice he was warned, if you're in this area. There was something. Was it construction, or I think it was just a speed trap.
Well, it's a speed trap, and then there's a merge lane for one highway
Okay, that's what it was, not construction.
merges into the other highway, and so it was a fairly dangerous intersection area, just because of the way the roads were laid
Right.
out. And again, this is 1955 roads. You got to be thinking, this isn't the interstates of today, or even the highways of today. They were paved and they were there, but they were not nearly as well engineered as what we use now.
Probably not as well lit. Yeah, so he had 2 friends tell him, to be careful and to watch where he was going that particular week. And then he ran into Alec Guinness.
Yeah, the night that he got his car, he ran into Alex Guinness. And Alex Guinness got a bad feeling about it. I saw a YouTube video where Alex Guinness is actually reporting the story about what happened. And Alex said he felt that the car was sinister.
Right. He actually wrote in his diary, and what he wrote in his diary, and I think it's just cool that Alec Guinness kept a diary. I don't
Now,
know.
for those of you who are not sure who Alec Guinness is, he was a famous actor. He played, many of you will know him as Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original 3 Star Wars episodes from
So
the
see, he had the
1970s to
Force.
80s. He had the Force.
Right, but he was a ghost in one of those at least. Well, 2 of them, really.
Yeah, he was really only in the first one, as far as a live actor. So, in his diary, Alec Guinness said, "The sports car looked sinister to me, exhausted, hungry, feeling a little ill-tempered in spite of Dean's kindness. I heard myself saying in a voice I could hardly recognize as my own, 'Please never get in it. If you get in that car, you will be found dead in it by this time next week.'" And it was 1 week later
To the day.
to the day that he had this
Like a
accident.
premonition.
Right, and even we watched a YouTube video, and Chad watched the YouTube video. I listened to it from the other room as I was doing some other stuff, but this isn't hearsay. I mean, we heard Alec Guinness tell that story himself. So this isn't just urban myth. It's, it really happened.
Video evidence of him making this statement about that experience that happened. He being Alex Guinness.
But, James Dean, he's young. How was he when how old? 24?
23, 24?
Yeah, he wasn't very old. So when you're that age, you're going to live forever. Nothing's going to happen to you. He laughed it off. But I find it interesting that he was warned 3 times to be very, very careful.
Some bad juju with that car, huh?
Oh,
Everybody felt it.
We have only begun to touch the iceberg on this car. Yeah, he laughed it off. And, going back to the 2 friends, their names were Lance Reventlow and Bruce Kessler. And they said, this was the day of the accident. And they said, be careful. We both got speeding tickets on this road. So, bring your speed down.
And I believe that he was going out to a amateur race that day. To a race. I mean, that's where they were going. He and his mechanic, who had been a Porsche mechanic, had worked for the Porsche dealership.
Yeah, his name was Rolf Wuthridge, and they were going to the Salinas sports car races. But it's interesting, some of the research that I did, they said that they felt like an angel or something was trying to warn James Dean something bad's going to happen, do something else, and he blew it off. But they, as they discussed with this mechanic, they decided that it would be better for Dean to get the Spider and run the engine in, get it,
Break it in a
break
little
it
bit.
in,
warm
run
it
it
up.
around. And so Wuthridge was in the car with Dean. when they were driving. And then they had some people behind them in a truck and trailer, because they were on their way to the races. And so you've got
your crew, your
your
pit
crew
crew,
and
your
your
mechanics
stuff.
and equipment. Because
And
you don't get a lot of equipment in a Porsche.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
cargo space just suboptimal.
yeah, so just outside of Bakersfield, police pulled over the convoy and gave them some speeding tickets. But James Dean and Wuthridge, what did I say?
Mm-hmm.
Wuthridge. They just kept going. And I think they said they were going 120 miles an hour.
I heard 90, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was higher.
120 sounds cool.
Well, not. I heard around 85 to 90, but
Yeah, here we go. So it says they were barreling down Route 466 at an estimated 85 miles per hour.
But 120 does sound cooler.
120 kilometers per hour. Does that help?
I don't know.
That's probably about right.
Yeah, it is.
So there was a Cal Poly student. His name was Donald Turnipseed, which I think is an interesting last name considering the circumstances. Not turnip, like the vegetable. Turn up, like make it bigger.
Turn up the speed.
He was driving a Ford Tudor, and he decided to make a sudden turn onto Route 41, which is kind of right there where those roads were merging, like you were talking about. And the impact sent the Ford almost 40 feet down a road, ejected Wuthridge from the Porsche, and he actually wasn't hurt. Dean was pronounced dead on arrival, and the student, I heard, just got a little scratch was all. And even though the car was declared a total loss by the insurance company, it still caused lots of issues, which we're going to talk about.
And it was interesting because the car was it was totaled, and the engine and drivetrain were intact, and were actually purchased by, and you probably got information about this, but by a car guy that had that works on cars, and he'd done like the Batmobile and different things for Adam West later in the Batman series. But he'd actually purchased the vehicle, and they parted some of the parts out.
Yeah. So, but before we parted out, after the accident, and everyone recovered, and the funeral and everything, Wuthridge had actually tried to commit suicide a number of times. He was never successful, but he went on to stab his wife 14 times.
Jeez. I was going to say, with this accident, considering this is 1950s, it's not like we have airbag technology. It's not like we've developed any of these safety measures that we have now.
They didn't have seatbelts,
Right.
I don't think, in it.
Yeah, well, people, they talk about Wuthridge being ejected from the vehicle, right? You're thinking, probably no seatbelts, probably no airbags. How the hell did anyone survive this thing?
Right.
And then it turns out that James Dean is the only one who perishes in the accident. It's astounding when you think about it.
And a nurse was one of the first people on the scene, and they had to get him out. They had to pry him out. He
Right.
was
He was
dead, and she basically had checked and felt that he was dead, and felt that her diagnosis of the situation was that he had broken his neck and had probably died almost instantly.
Right. God, just
But-
crazy.
Just like you say, but just no
To think that the two other individuals recovered is
astounding.
It's nuts. I mean, you think about impacts even today. An 85 mile an hour side impact with someone turning like that.
Right.
I mean, there's a high potential for multiple casualties there.
Right, and back then they built cars completely different than they built them now. They built cars for durability.
Right.
Okay, and today cars, go, oh, those cars just crumple up.
That's the point.
They just, you get into a minor fender bender and the car is just destroyed, and it's like that's by design.
They are built to absorb shock.
Right, they
now.
take all the energy out so that the people in the car don't die.
Right.
In 1955, the cars were built
Solid
literally like
steel.
tanks. They
Yeah.
were built from these same, manufacturing facilities that World War II tanks came
Right.
out of General Motors and these different places, and they were, very, very solidly built, and they didn't give much.
Right.
They
all of that impact goes into the human body
Right.
at that point.
Yeah, the car stops. The body doesn't have a seatbelt. It moves forward. It's like an egg just being splatted.
And at some point, people realize probably, hey, cars are okay quite a bit, but everyone's dying. Maybe we can fix this. And yeah, like you said, cars now, completely different engineering. They're meant to crumple. They're meant to absorb shock and decrease that impact on the driver.
Yeah, take the energy out of the impact and crumple up, so that the energy goes into the stream of the body, and there's the compartment, the driver's compartment is more safe.
Little Bastard was not that kind of car.
No.
Not the crumple kind of car. It sounds like it took a significant amount of damage, but was still in some condition that it could be restored.
And I don't think the Ford Tudor was either.
Yeah, exactly.
Knowing Fords from that
I
era.
doubt anyone restored it, but you know what I mean.
Okay, so to me, you hear about James Dean's cursed car, and everyone knows the story about James Dean. But it's what happens after that even lends more to this cursed. So we talked about Wuthrich, who tried to commit suicide, failed several times, and ended up stabbing his wife 14 times. He actually died in 1981 in a drunk driving accident.
Oh, he didn't go to prison for stabbing his wife?
Apparently he got out,
Oh.
if he did. I
Okay.
didn't research that part of it. I'm just researching what happened with the car.
He tried to kill
But that's a
himself.
good
Stabbed
question.
someone a bunch of times, and then you're like, how is he not in prison right now?
What a little bastard.
That's right.
I see what you did there. Okay, so after this accident, where James Dean had done some public safety snippets for the California Highway Patrol, they bought the car, even though it was totaled, and they thought, we're going to buy this car, it's totaled, but we're going to haul it around and use it as a public service. Hey, this is what happens if you speed, right? So, but they actually regretted that decision, and it did not take them very long to regret this decision because the curse follows. So as they were hauling it around one day near Salinas, which is where James Dean was going to the race, the vehicle that was transporting it was involved in a really serious accident, and it was so great that the truck driver, whose name was George Barhuse, was thrown from the cab. And
No
then,
seatbelts.
Again, no seatbelts.
Again, 1950s.
The Porsche rolled off the truck bed, landed on top of him, and crushed him to death. So,
Wow.
Yep.
How freak.
Right? In the same place. So then you wonder, is the car cursed or is Salinas cursed? But we forge on. We've got more. But there's more.
But wait, there's more.
Ron Popeil died not too long ago, just
No.
FYI.
The food dehydrator guy
But wait, there's more.
and the roaster.
We might have to do it.
And the spray on hair.
That's oh my gosh, the spray on hair. That black powder that just accumulates on people's.
We just ran so far in the weeds.
The Ronco food dehydrator. And sorry, little bastard, back to you.
Okay. So on September 30th, which is the anniversary of Dean's death, there was a 15-year-old boy, and he became the next victim of this car. So he was at another one of these California Highway Patrol exhibits of, here's James Dean's car, don't speed. And he was, just looking at this car, just absorbing it all. And I've been there. I mean, not there, but, where you're looking at something that's historically important and you're thinking, wow, this is where this happened,
Mm-hmm.
Where were we? We were at Fort Sumter, where the Civil War started. And I remember standing there just going, whoa, this is where it all started. So that's what this kid was doing. And he was about 12 or 15 feet away from the exhibit. And 3 bolts snapped suddenly, and it's described as if broken by spectral hands. They just snapped. The boy screamed, and the car plowed forward and ran him over.
A little bastard.
Now, he didn't die, but his legs were severely crushed.
It rolled off the trailer?
It was like on an exhibit,
And the bolts broke.
Bolts broke, and it ran over this. I'm just.
I'm like, did they have
I
this
didn't make this
suspended?
up.
Was this Cirque du Soleil for cars? Like, what is going on
What
with
kind
this?
of momentum is it going to
suspension?
have?
I know, like,
I didn't.
it must
write
have been on
this.
some type of platform, but I'm just sitting here going,
I'm wondering if it was on
why
a
did
platform.
it have bolts?
Well, I don't know.
Weird.
So it wouldn't roll off and crush children.
Well, obviously. But if you just set it on the damn floor, it's also not going to roll anywhere and crush a couple chocks and you're good. I don't know.
So
saying.
the next victim, it was a few weeks later. It was being transported again, right? Because they're hauling it around. Look at this. Look at this.
After it crushed a child.
Yeah, they're still doing it.
Nobody's learned the lesson yet.
Please
Okay.
come see.
Right.
The car
So,
that crushes children and killed James Dean
well, and it killed the driver.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
and the driver.
Where? Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
The body count
Is this what
going
Stephen King based Christine off of?
Probably.
It's a little Christine-ish.
Yeah, seriously.
probably. Okay, we got to get to the next person. So it's driving around again, right? This time it literally snapped in two, slid from the flatbed of the truck, hit the pavement, which caused another fatal accident before it could be cleared from the roadway.
Little bastard snapped into
Yep.
and still killed people.
Yep. So, Highway Patrol decided they'd had enough of killing people.
Reasonable.
That's not really their job.
And I don't know if the Highway Patrol owned it or if someone else owned it and just lent it to the Highway Patrol. But they decided to ship it back to California for a permanent retirement. So the car was loaded into a boxcar in Florida and was shut, right? Off it's going to go. And when it
on a train.
and when it arrived in LA, the seal on the boxcar was intact, but the car was gone. And it's never been located to this day.
Now, have you really looked at what this car looked like after it was wrecked to think that it's rolling and doing some of these things that it's doing
Just-
after the accident? Because I myself just had to go back and look at
It's
what
a
condition
pretty
this
smashed
car
up
is in.
car. I was thinking the
Right?
same thing. It's not like it's on its pristine little wheels.
Exactly. How's this thing doing all of this? It's pretty mangled.
And then it disappeared.
Disappeared. Poof.
Just like,
Aliens.
No, they don't know where the
it's
got
got
is
to be
now.
aliens.
So
Just
It always comes back to
It's always
aliens.
aliens.
we ran across some story of there's somebody out there who claimed they have it hidden, but they were not going to give the location of it.
So, to me, there's some conflicting stories because there is a fellow by the name of Dr. William Esrich who stripped it for some parts. So, actually has some parts. And I don't know that this is conflicting. I think this happened before it was sold to use for the Highway Patrol. So, I think.
So you did like a little bastard organ transplant? We're going to take some of these pieces.
The
Yeah.
motor
Yeah.
and the
Get another car.
transmission, right?
Yeah, they were used by another doctor that was a racer.
Right. And so there are little bits and pieces of this car out there that they know of. But as far as like the chassis and the main body of the car,
But right, so
gone.
the motor, the guy died. The transmission, the guy died. So
Those guys put them in their race cars, and they both
And then they died
ended up
too.
Died.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of them hit a tree, and it just had the parts of the car in it, and was killed. And so this is why the curse of the little bastard, is obviously gaining momentum because people are literally dropping like flies around this car.
Weird.
So I had to go and try to compare it a little bit with Paul Walker.
Ah.
That's a
Okay.
name that some people are familiar with, a little bit more updated,
Our
but he
younger
crashed in
audience.
in the Porsche as well. However, there wasn't a lot of similarities, other than the fact that you've got a young, handsome actor crushed in a Porsche. That was it.
That's a
But-
pretty
Was
major
speeding.
pretty similar
Well, speeding.
similarity.
But I was trying to look, was there any curse of the Paul Walker car or nothing?
No, so here's a couple of little tidbits about Little Bastard. When it was in storage at one point, and this was before the Highway Patrol started carrying it around, it burst into flames.
Little bastard did?
Yep.
I was about to say the Porsche that Paul Walker was in was engulfed in flames, and that's probably the reason why nobody tried to salvage it. But
Yeah.
Little Bastard, they're like, yeah, sure.
They
Little
said
a little incineration. Yeah, let's go for it. Restore this thing. It's great.
So Little Bastard mysteriously caught fire, and they said it had remarkably little damage, had 2 melted tires and some singed paint. but they had sold a different pair of tires than the 550, and both of those, the one that James Dean died in,
The ones that weren't destroyed, because there were two that were still intact after the accident.
How cheap are people to rip off 2 tires from a totaled vehicle?
No, they didn't rip them off. They took them off and sold them.
Oh,
I mean, the guy that bought
I was
this,
going to say, some
Right.
dude was just going to use them or what?
and they did.
but the two that they sold reportedly blew at the same time, and it caused a new owner to careen off the road.
I guess that's my point. Go get some new tires.
At this point, I'm going, who is which car? No, I don't want to be by it. I don't want to. I don't want to have anything to do with this car. If someone said, "Hey, we found James Dean's little bastard. We found the chassis. Do you want to buy it?" I'd be like, nope, I'm good.
What about the fuzzy dice that were in the window?
Nope.
I'd stay away from the bolts.
just
They just randomly break.
We don't need that car.
So I saw an interesting part of the YouTube, and they talked about it because it was like the 65th anniversary or something not too long ago of the crash, and a legitimate group put up $1 million if someone could produce the wreckage of, verifiable produce.
And they've got the VIN numbers. They know the VIN numbers, so you can't just fake this. I mean, it's got to match the VIN numbers that they've
And
got.
people have said, "Oh, I know where it's at," or "I've got it," and everything else. But it's like a credible group has said, "There's $1 million if you can make it." If you can bring it.
Talk
to
is
us.
cheap, baby.
Yeah, and
Show
so
me
I
some
find
proof.
that's really interesting. That if I knew where it was at, if my father had taken and hidden it somewhere, and it's like I can get $1 million and get this off my, get rid of this thing.
But would you
Yeah,
be
baby.
cursed? Would you be cursed for taking the money for that?
Oh no,
Now let someone else deal with the cursed car. Take the $1 million.
I'll take the $1 million. They can have the money.
I'll be
They can have
cursed
the
in
car.
Mexico. That's fine. Hanging out on the beach. I wouldn't even be driving. It'd be great.
Yeah, but anyway, it's been missing now for 60 years, and I'm just curious. Was it just a lot of the times and the safety wasn't there like it is now, or do you think there was actually a curse put on it?
It's like some defective Porsche. You're like, come on, guys.
Now, I did read
Everything's defective.
that James Dean dabbled a little bit in Satanism, like some of the
So
movie
that's what
stars
I was
did.
going to say. So was it
back
the
at the
car or was it James Dean himself that was cursed?
And did he stay with the car? And he's the one that was unhappy, and so he's
Right.
cursing
It's the
everybody
little
else.
bastard.
Very likely.
So there are. So James Dean, passed. He's died. There are beliefs that. Thanks for that.
Have you had enough time to grieve his passing? Okay.
So they say that
14
his
years
body
before
has-
my birth?
They say that his body's been taken from his gravesite. I don't know if that's true or not.
James Dean's.
They say his headstone has been stolen. People say that they see his apparition sitting on his headstone. People say they see a spectral 550 Spider driving up and down the road where it crashed.
Where is he
So,
buried? Is he buried in California?
Probably. So, I don't know. This one to me is fascinating because...
Well, it can keep going because that car and those parts are out there. So you never do know. And people are still going to be obsessed with it. It's
yeah.
James Dean. So this is an ongoing story.
Oh, yeah. And it makes you wonder how many accidents and how many things have happened out there that are a result of this curse. And we just don't know because
Absolutely. Because we really don't know.
no one's fessing up where this car is.
Because I did run across some story that was October-ish 2020 that somebody's trying to claim that they do have the motor, that they've matched serial numbers. So you never know,
I'm very curious where this car went.
right? And with the pandemic happening, so many weird things, people are getting more involved in what is in the garage, what is out there. We've had a little bit more time to go to grandma's shed out back with the false wall, You don't know what's going to happen.
Yep.
Yeah, so there is one more little blurb that could be the cause of this cursed car. We talked just a second ago about how he kind of flirted with Satanism and was actually reported to possibly have been in a witch coven in LA. And he became interested when he dated this gal named Malia Nurmi. and she was an actress. And he was kind of afraid that the affair he was having with her could negatively affect his career. And so he publicly denied any involvement with her. And kind of the rumor that's going around is that she viewed it
cursed him.
as spurning, because he didn't, I mean, he's famous, and, she wanted to be the girlfriend of this rich, famous guy. So a lot of people think that she may have cast a spell on him.
You never know.
And maybe his cars, because he was big into his cars.
Right? Never know. Go for the car.
Yeah. So who knows?
Dun, dun, dun.
One last little tidbit, is James Dean was a smoker, and it's also said that not only can you see him sitting, but sometimes if you're around his headstone, you can smell smoke.
We're headed to that headstone.
There's another story.
We can at least set up a camera.
So the legend says if you visit the graveside and place an unlit cigarette at the headstone after dark, when you return, the cigarette will be lit.
And some homeless man will be sitting there smoking it.
Probably some guy with a tribal chief,
It's
Headdress.
and
It's probably
hitting on the girls.
It's probably the caretaker.
Right.
He's just trying to get free smokes.
that's right. No, keep putting them out here. I swear they'll be lit.
That's what happens every time, I swear.
People also say they see a hitchhiking Dean, and he disappears when people stop to pick him up. So there's all sorts of ghost
All right.
stories.
I'm bucket listing James Dean. Let's go find him.
Okay,
All right.
we're on it.
We're going to do that. We'll take it live. We'll take you on TikTok.
Ooh,
Yeah. Come help us find James Dean. Yeah.
a whole different
Can
animal,
see it happen.
for sure.
Yes, for sure.
Well, thanks for listening. Last but not least, get your Supernatural Hour swag at advancedparanormal.com. We have a lot of items for sale, t-shirts and mugs and tapestries and stickers, you name it. I still need to bring my mug. It's been months and months and months.
You talk about it every week.
I know. I
if
use it.
I hadn't seen it, I would wonder
about
if you
to
were
say.
telling me the truth.
I use it frequently at home. I just don't bring it here to the attic of despair. I need to.
Well, now that I have my tapestry, I need to come up with
Something else.
maybe a notebook.
Ooh,
We have notebooks too.
there you go.
It's not as fun to say as tapestry. Maybe I need to call it a ledger. Ooh,
Oh, a ledger. I like it.
there
Get
we
a
go.
ledger.
I'm going to get a ledger.
Also, advancedparanormal.com. You can find our own personal merchandise. We've got anything from lip balm to cleansing
And I helped make the
kits.
lip balm.
She did. She did. We have that in sage, and we have that in lavender. Or did we just do that one in sage?
I think we just did
You
that one in
made it.
sage.
All right. We got rollers in sage and sage and lavender.
And the lavender smells amazing.
Right? Local lavender. So support your local. Check out our swag shop.
And then just another little shout out to some of the friends of Advanced Paranormal and Supernatural Hour, Barbary Coast. They no longer have their amazing pretzel, but they still have some amazing food. So go hit them up, especially on a Thursday night for their little flat iron steak. Utah Freeze Dried for Pets. They've got some amazing pet nutrition items for your dog.
And a great groomer.
She's amazing.
It's just what I hear.
Rumors abound.
Yeah, from the people that you're doing the work for.
We have Castles Nature Studio, and yes, that is our very own castle, for off-road backcountry adventure rally. And if you're looking to do some jeeping or some service projects, they are your group because they do a lot of service projects.
So what's your TikTok count?
We are one short of 1,300, and the last time we recorded, we didn't quite have 1,000.
Yeah.
So
And
Growing.
where are we at? What did you say?
about 1,300.
1,300. Wow.
We're in the safe. We can do live.
I like that.
Because you have to have 1,000 to go live. And so when we had 1,002, I was like, if I have 3 people that decide not to follow
All
us
right.
anymore,
I'll get a TikTok account and be that one person.
lives
Get
are
us to
gone.
1,300.
As we all stare at Doc.
One person, huh? Okay.
Yeah. I have mine. I have 6 followers. It's hard. So
6.
kudos to Raven. Yeah.
1,300. It's
'cause
pretty
I have
impressive.
She's doing really, really
Because
well.
I have the mental capacity of a 13-year-old, apparently.
How am I younger than all of you, but the oldest when it comes to social media engagement here?
Maybe because you're
you
like a
use your brain for
respectable
greater
adult.
things.
Just saying, I don't have any of this
You,
stuff.
you spent the last 10 years doing doctor stuff, not
maybe.
social media.
Oh, no, I lied. I'm sorry.
Not merchandising.
We have 1,276 followers.
24 people then. Okay.
So you got to sign up 24 times.
But here's
Can I
what
make
you
24
do.
accounts?
When you before you check people out, so part of the checking out process is they have to log
On the
on.
discharge instructions,
Yes.
just staple it on there. It's a good idea.
Yeah, you can't leave the ER
I
until.
like it.
I'm not sure my employer would love it.
Add my hashtag.
Feel free to
I think-
subscribe to this
I
TikTok
think
page.
no, they have to before they can leave.
It's
You want to
mandatory.
leave? You got to here.
That's right. Clock's ticking too.
Exactly. I like that idea. I'm going with that.
All right.
Yeah, let me know how that works out for you. I'm not really going to implement that at my business, but you implement that at yours.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, stay spooky, my haunty friends.
I love you, Nicholas.
Have a good one.
Hey, good night.
You've been listening to the Supernatural Hour at AdvancedParanormal.com. The Supernatural Hour is part of the Radio Ronin network found at RadioRonin.com. Copyright 2021 by Advanced Paranormal Services.